Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing today? Sunday morning, our usual time slot. I know there was a bunch of confusion regarding the schedules. I'm sorry, guys. I know that you guys have gotten used to this Sunday morning 10 a.m. time slot. And I think I just threw a wrench in things by complicating matters and doing an alternate day on Fridays. And to make matters worse is it alternates. So I apologize for the confusion. That's why I made the little video last night very quickly. You can tell the video quality was pretty much garbage. I did that on my phone just very quickly. I figured many of you might be a little confused regarding the time slots, so I figured it might be a good thing for me to clarify and figure out a way to simplify things. But anyways, just so you guys know, Sundays every 2 weeks. So today, not next Sunday, Sunday after. Friday, same thing. Friday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday, every other weekend. So it alternates, okay? Just so you guys know. So this Sunday is on, next Sunday is off, the Sunday after is on again. And for the Fridays, it's the same thing. So if I'm on that Friday, the following Friday, I will not be on. It'll be a Sunday, okay? Friday, Sunday, Friday, Sunday. Basically how it works, all right? So thank you guys for tuning in today. I appreciate it. I don't know, I haven't looked at who's in the house already. I know there's quite a few of you already, which is fantastic. I hope everybody's doing good. Give me a thumbs up if you guys are all doing good overall. I mean, physically, psychologically, emotionally, I hope everybody's in tip-top shape today. I figured that right now, going into the winter months, at least here in Canada where I am, people tend to get a little bit, down in the dumps because of the weather change, not being able to be outside in the sunshine, and just being cooped up. For those of you that are in warmer climates, you might not have that situation, but for people in the north, the northern hemisphere, will definitely, unless you're a winter person, not really look forward to winter so much. But hey, that's how it goes. For me, winter's hibernation. More guitars, more projects, things like that. So I'm pretty okay with that. I'm used to the routine, and it gives me more chance to practice and do other things that I like so much. So the first thing I want to do is say good morning to everyone. Then we'll talk about maybe Black Friday deals, see if anybody's made any new acquisitions lately, what you guys are up to, and take it from there. There's a lot of great stuff to talk about this morning. So good morning, Alan. How are you? Sunday live streams is a must. I agree. I hope you guys have your coffee and everything. You're good to go. Alan says, should stay Sundays live stream. I like Sundays too, guys. I prefer Sundays. Unfortunately, I am booked for an alternate day on a Sunday, so it's hard for me to do Sunday morning. Maybe you guys... Let me ask you this. What about if we do Sundays, but instead of being Sunday morning, we alternate between Sunday 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and maybe Sunday evening? Would that work better for you guys? I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to accommodate, but it's not easy. Everybody's got different schedules. So just let me know what you think about that. Fat Philosopher says, oh, I forgot the start time shifted an hour. Yeah, we do daylight savings time. We still do that. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know how you want to look at it. We're one of the places that still shifts the time between spring and fall. So it is a little bit sooner or later, actually. Fall back, spring forward. Fat Philosopher says that he made a video playing an old Warlock. And most recent purchase, a Hondo 19, is that an 86? Yeah, a Warlock copy. That's very interesting. I'll be sure to catch that later on, Fat Philosopher. How do you like it so far? Which one do you prefer? And let me know. overall, I'm just curious, guys, for those of you that are here today, how many guitars do you guys have? Just curious. I mean, I like to see what the average is, to see if I'm the freak in this bunch, or if you guys are just as bad as I am in terms of guitar acquisition syndrome. I'm very curious. By the way, in my hands today, I have a Les Paul copy, which is my Bacchus. Great guitar that I love a lot. And I have it plugged into my Flamma FX100 today. I don't know if you can hear it, but... Can you guys hear that? Is that too loud? Too muffled? Let me know. So, Fat Philosopher Bruce Brooks, good morning. He says he still thinks Fridays is a better day. So, much better not fighting against Sunday morning family time and interruptions. Friday nights I'm alone in my man cave. I agree. I mean, look, you know what? If you're a social butterfly, and I don't know who still is these days, Fridays could be a problem because, you know, normally Fridays it's a night out. People like to socialize. Now with COVID, maybe not so much, right? So it all depends on what your scenario is currently. We're going to try and find a good time that works for everyone, for sure. So good morning to Bruce. Good morning, Jack. Jack Collins from Louisiana. Wayne, good morning to you. British Columbia, another Canadian. How's it going, eh? Corky Cat, good morning. Richard, how are you? And Brian, all the way from Ireland, home of U2. One of my other favorite bands that I used to love when I was in high school as well. Dan of New Jersey, good morning. How are things in New Jersey, Dan? Hope everything's okay. Simon, good morning, Simon. Nice to see you. Rico, Indianapolis, it's raining apparently, so that kind of sucks. Today was actually frosty. When I looked outside the window, you can see frost on the roof, so it's gonna dip. I think we're expecting snow pretty soon here, so pretty soon we're gonna be shoveling the white crap off the driveways and everything. My favorite thing to do. Cohen, good morning. How are you? Strat 5150. How are you, my friend? Vox Guitars Rock. Good morning to you, Paul. Good morning. Nice to see you, Paul. Rico says, why not every Sunday? Less confusing. So Rico, I said the reason for that is just because I have something booked on one of the Sundays and I can't. So I apologize for that. I know I make it confusing for everyone. Quicksilver, good morning. Just call me Tony, Quicksilver. Tony's fine. Randy from Southern Illinois again. Hi, Randy. Thank you for tuning in again. Christian, good morning. How are you? So we have a couple of new faces here today, which is fantastic. I always like to see new faces. Ed, how are you? Ed says, if you lower the action on a Les Paul style bridge with the thumb wheels, will it change the intonation? Usually it won't. It shouldn't, but it's always good to check it, you know, unless you're really changing it in an extreme way. Let me just put my phone on silent here because I'm going to get interrupted with texts and stuff. So what I was saying was it shouldn't. Unless you're really making a big change, like if you're really going very high or very low, I usually like to check it anyways. Normally the intonation will change when you change the string gauges on your guitars. So keep that in mind. Whenever I make any change, just so you know guys, I don't know if you guys are aware, whenever I make any change on the guitar, I usually will do a check which involves more than one thing. So if I change the string gauge, for example, I'll definitely check the slots at the nut to make sure that they're wide enough for the new strings if I go up a gauge. If you go up a gauge or down a gauge, typically the relief in the neck, which is the curvature of the neck, will change also. So if you go up a gauge, it'll normally bend more, it'll bow more. If you go down a gauge, it'll probably straighten up a little bit. So then I'll check that. I'll probably adjust the action as well, the intonation. And so I make sure that there's no buzzing. It's like you can't really just change one thing on a guitar. It's a system. So you have to actually check 2 or 3 different things to make it play its best. And also, you know, with the change of seasons, change of humidity, I noticed that my guitars will definitely change. The necks will react differently, especially when it comes to summer and winter. There's a big difference when you start heating your house. You lose a lot of humidity, and that definitely makes the wood move. Like you'll notice even in your own home that certain times of the year the doors might stick, or the slats, the wood flooring might squeak, and other times it won't. And maybe you'll notice some buckling in your floor when it's really humid, and when it's dry you'll see gaps. That's just, you know, moisture levels. So it's always good to check, but you have to check 2 or 3 different places. Did I answer your question? Does that make sense to you? Alan says the winter blues are here in the UK. The lockdowns are getting too often. Same here, Alan. We're still in lockdown, man. We're still, now they're telling us to, you know, if we have to spend Christmas with our families, that we can do it, but we should quarantine for 2 weeks, which doesn't make any sense to me. But nothing that they've been doing kind of makes sense. I think they've just been scrambling and trying to figure out as they go. You have to just use your common sense, you know. For me, I mean, Christmas and family time is super important, but what's more important is keeping myself and my family safe. And, you know, Christmas, I'll spend it with my family, you know. I don't think I'm going to any parties or anything like that, that's for sure. Rico says, I'm about to go into the rain and look for some coffee. What are you getting, Starbucks or something else, Rico? Cowtown Customs, good morning. Had to stop and leave a like and had, what? Sorry, I can't read them. That's writing is too small. Good morning, had to stop in and leave a like and have to run soon. Hey, good morning. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy day, man. I do appreciate that. Always nice for somebody just to stop and say hello. I appreciate that. Cohen. So you got new guitars last week. Awesome. This is what I live for. So let's hear it. Let's hear it. PRS SE Tremonti, very nice guitar. Is that the new version or the old version? I had one of those. I had the SE Tremonti. It was an older version. I think the new ones might be better. I'm not sure. So let me know which one you had. Dylan Strat copy from, I assume, beginning of the 80s. Nice. What color is the Strat copy, and what kind of features do you have? Is that a rosewood neck or a maple neck? What do you have on there? And are you going to be doing any kind of mods to it? I have to ask, because normally whenever I do get a new guitar, mods are the kind of the first thing on my mind, you know? So I have to ask. Maybe you guys don't do that. Quicksilver's thinking about cooking supper. So what's cooking? What do you typically make for supper? Just curious. It's still early. I just had breakfast. So for me, I'm not thinking about supper yet. Corky Cat says, touchy subject, Black Friday deals here in EU. They suck. I drool like a rabid dog when I see the US deals. You know, Corky Cat, I don't know, man. I look for deals every Black Friday, and it seems like there's less and less deals out there. You know, you look at the big chain stores, and here, I mean, here in Canada, we don't really have, we have Long and McQuaid, which is meh. It's, you know, they have stuff, but it's all this, it's typical stuff that you can find pretty much anywhere. So they don't really have great deals. If you're lucky, if you get 15%, you know. Beyond that, I mean, online you could probably get some deals, but if I buy out of the States where there's better deals, I get killed on the duties, shipping and handling. So I'm not a big Black Friday nut when it comes to gear, because I don't have sources for good gear, but I do like Black Friday for other things. Like if you're gonna buy electronics, TVs and whatnot, you usually can get some good deals, but often they're like older lines, discontinued models, that kind of thing. But you know what, for me, I don't really mind. Sometimes a good deal is a good deal, you know. You just have to shop around. There are more and more great websites that will give you information as to good deals for Black Friday if you go online, right? Bruce also got a new guitar, or 2 new guitars this week. Congratulations, Bruce. So he got finished Bigsby Telecaster build. You mentioned that last time, so that's coming along, I guess. And wanted a Telecaster with P90, so took a chance and ordered a Harley Benton TE90 quilted maple, semi-hollow quilted maple, carved top P90 Telecaster, arriving on Tuesday. Nice. So Bruce, they're shipping, right? Because I tried to get information, and they were saying that as far as Canada goes, and I think maybe the US, they were still having issues with shipments. So maybe where you're located, it's a little bit different. I'm curious to see when they're going to start up again. So that's really cool. The Harley Benton TE90 quilted maple semi-hollow. I wonder what that sounds like. If that sounds like one of those thin line Telecasters from Fender. Let me know what you think of it, and how it plays and stuff. Really curious to hear that. So guys, by the way, before I forget, I want to thank everybody for supporting the channel. As usual, I really appreciate all of the sideline donations when you buy the merchandise that I post underneath my videos. That really does help my channel. I know some of you have been very active, and I do appreciate every one of you who have done that for me. I really do want you guys to know that it does help my channel. As far as videos that I've put up recently, there's a video that I'm actually finishing up. Hopefully I'll be able to finish that part today. And that was the headless guitar that I spoke about not too long ago. I did a full review on that one, and I just have a little section to finish up on the video, and I'll probably be posting that maybe tomorrow if I can. I'm also working on another video on a pedal board. I want you guys to know that that's on its way as well, so that shouldn't be too long. And then I have a couple of pedals that I want to go through with you guys as well. So a lot of things in the works. I just have to find time to finish it all up. Unfortunately, it's a very busy time for me right now, and that's why the Sunday shows are not that quick coming, but hopefully that'll clear up soon. Rico says, keep it the same time and date, please. I'm gonna try, Rico. As soon as I can, I'm gonna bring that back. Vox Guitars Rock says, Sunday evening works for me too. Okay, so that's another alternative. Maybe we can simplify things and just keep it on Sundays, except one week it'll be Sunday morning and the other weekend will be Sunday night. I'm okay with doing that too. See, Alan says Sunday would be too late for Europe if you have to go to work on Monday. I agree. That's sort of the dilemma. That's why the Friday, at least it's evening on Friday. Usually people don't have to go to work the next day. That's why I was thinking Fridays. Anyways, we'll figure it out, guys. Don't worry about it. And Corin also says he finished his own Strat with the P90s. A Strat with the P90s, that's an interesting combination. I like P90 pickups a lot. I haven't considered putting them on a Strat, however. It's usually, I think about putting them on a Les Paul style guitar. And I have a build that I'm going to be working on over the winter, which is a Les Paul style body with one humbucker. And maybe I'll end up putting a P90 in there. I'm not really sure if it's going to be a humbucker or P90, but it's going to be an interesting build. I just have to get some equipment to finish up the build. The headstock on that kit guitar is flat, and I like this style headstock. You know, the Gibson Les Paul style headstock, more or less. Either this way, without the little dip in the middle, but I need to get some hardware. I need to get some like a scroll saw or something like that, or I could probably do it with a sander if I'm very careful, but it's really hard to get both sides symmetrical, like to the T. I might go with something like this, not necessarily a Gibson Les Paul headstock, because the Les Paul headstock has the little butt crack dimple in the middle, like the book kind of design, and it's really hard to get in there if you don't have special tools to make it that way. So I might simplify it a little bit, but it'll be pretty cool. I'm sure it's going to be a really nice project that I'm going to be able to show you guys soon, I hope. So okay, you guys are answering some of the questions that I asked before. Okay, so let me answer some questions first. So Simon wants to know what guitar this is. This is called a Bacchus. Can you see that? So it's Bacchus. It's a very nice guitar. It's very close to what you would get with a Les Paul. I like the headstock. That's the reason why I picked this one up. I'm pretty sure this is not a solid top, but it still has some nice flame to it, and it does have some 3D effect. I don't know if you can see that. So I like this guitar a lot. The neck on this guitar is rather thin compared to my other Les Pauls. That's why I picked it up, just to have something different. Can you hear that? So I'm trying to, I'm also playing through the FX100 as I mentioned, and I have the expression pedal set for delay. So if I push down on it, I can get a way more delay. Or let me just put this up here. Oh, that just what happened here. Oh, it turned off the volume. So that's all the way up. And if I just push it down, I can vary the amount of delay. I like to have a little bit of delay, just so it makes things a little bit fatter. All right. Fat Philosopher says it's kind of fun. Warlocks make me want to go out and start a war. So Fat Philosopher, I don't know if I got you pegged right, but you like more of the metal style guitars, don't you? So what do you listen to normally in terms of music? Just trying to get your perspective on what kind of music you enjoy and what you guys like to play. Rico says he has about 15. So what are the majority of the guitars, Rico? Strats, Gibson style guitars, Les Paul, or do you mix it up? Strat 5150 has 10, so I don't feel so bad. I'm in good company here. Cohen has 16 guitars, 1 bass, and 2 ukuleles. I only have 1 ukulele, so you have me beat. It's actually not mine. I bought that for my daughter, but actually I do play it from time to time. Dan says he has an even dozen. All right, fantastic. Dan of New Jersey, 4 electrics, 2 acoustics. Dan, you got to catch up, man. Come on, you're falling behind. We have to encourage Dan. Richard says, I'll only admit to a dozen, but I know it's more. I kind of do that too. I'm kind of like, how many do you have? I kind of forget. I don't answer that question. A lot of people ask me that. How many do you have? Just a couple. So the Nye says he's got 9. So I want to know what percentage of your guitars are what? Like, are they mostly, do you guys mix them up, or do you tend to buy like mostly Strats, mostly Telecasters? What is it? What's the mix? I'm just curious. Vox Guitars Rock says I picked up a Behringer GMX 212 for 150 bucks. Nice deal, man. So how do you like the Behringer stuff? Curious to see what people think about the different gear that they picked up. Brian, 9 at the moment. I like that answer, Brian. At the moment. This point in time, Fat Philosopher says, 5 guitars, I guess, but selling my Les Paul soon. I hope if the post office lets me ship it. So Fat Philosopher, you're doing a lot of trading. I mean, I like the way Fat Philosopher thinks. He keeps it under control. He'll have a few and he'll bring one in and sell one out, bring one in, sell one out. So you don't get bored. I like that. Yesterday, guys, I saw a very nice Eastman 335 style guitar for sale. And on the used market. And the thing with Eastman is I like 335 type guitars. I like the Eastman stuff. I don't like the new headstock. They have a flared headstock now, which is, it's like a Gibson Les Paul headstock, but it really becomes flared at the top. Don't like it. But this one was an earlier model, which has more of the symmetrical headstock, not very flared. So I really wanted to maybe snag that one up. Unfortunately, right now I have cash tied up in other things, and I don't have anything to sell. So I'm probably gonna miss the opportunity to get that one. But it would have been nice to have another 335. I hear great things about those Eastman guitars, and I haven't had an opportunity to try one. Sometimes I try to trade some gear, and just to see if people will bite. But I think lately people have been not wanting gear so much. I think people need money. So people are asking for cash deals only. Jack has 14 guitars. Ed has 6. And he says he wants more. Of course. Ed, come on. You wouldn't be here if you didn't want more. And it's not want. It's need. Remember that. Corky Cat says 7 basses. 7 basses? 4 guitars, hoping to get a Telecaster and the PRS Piazzo Hollow sometime soon. So you got more basses than guitar. So what do you consider yourself, a guitarist or a bassist most of the time? Or you just like to, are you a swinger, like we say? I have nothing against people that like to play more than one instrument, because I like that too. At one point, I play bass from time to time. I love playing guitar. I dabbled in piano a bit. I'm not that good at it. I just can play a few chords. And I actually took drum lessons for a couple of years. I find that when you actually jump around and play other things, it actually makes your ear more aware when you're playing in a band situation. Like after I took drum lessons, I like to think I was a lot more focused on the drums in the mix and the groove, and it helped me really lock in to the drummer. So I like that. I think that's a good approach. When you go to big wig schools for music, like GIT or Boston Institute of Music and stuff like that, they do force you to learn other instruments. Even if you go for a guitar, they'll teach you. You'll have to pick up a secondary instrument. It could be piano, it could be xylophone, it could be whatever. And I think that's a good approach. So you kind of distract yourself or detach yourself from just the instrument, and it forces you to think of the music first, not just the instrument first, which is, I think, a good approach as well. Bruce says, I got to catch up on the messages here. I'm falling behind. At last count, I have 25 guitars. 25. All right, Bruce. So far, Bruce is in the lead. He's number 1. Unless some of you have more than that. So hats off to Bruce. Paul's he's pretty close. 13 guitars, play 9, others in cases stored out of sight. So are you a collector, Paul, or are you more like a player? A lot of people have a lot of guitars but don't play them. So they're more collectors. Quicksilver is asking a question. The Flamma is a rebadged more GE150, right? I don't know. You may be actually right on that. I'm not really sure. Unless Moore gets them from Flamma. I'm not really sure. I know the Flamma has a line of pedals that they don't seem to be rebadged. This is one of them, which I'll be doing a review on. This is the Flamma FS03 delay pedal. And as far as I can tell, it's not a rebranded anything. So I'm not really sure. I'll have to research that, unless somebody else would know the answer to that one. Okay, Simon. Now you're just showing off. Simon says he's got 40 guitars. Sure. I want to see pictures. Come on. If you're claiming 40, I want to see them all. Send me some pictures. I'm just kidding, Simon. You probably do have 40, man. I wouldn't be surprised. Hey, the Gospel of Mark is here too. Hi, how's it going, Mark? Nice to see you, buddy. Hope everybody's good at home as well. Alan says, please turn off the distortion. Okay, why? What's wrong with the distortion? Is it too aggressive? Let me try clean here. Is that better? Is that better? I don't know. Sometimes the clean doesn't inspire me to play so much. Rich says 15 basses, 15 guitars, 1 bass. Vox says 9 guitars. Cool Tunes Made Easy is in the house. Nice to see you, buddy. Thank you for dropping in. So Gospel of Mark says, I used to have 25 guitars. I have between 9 and 10 now. So this is the thing. If you have only 9 or 10 guitars, and I say only very lightly because 9 or 10, 8 or 10, whatever it is, most people will think that's still extreme. But you know what? I like the idea of, having a bunch and then really focusing in on the ones that you enjoy to play and then weeding down the herd. Because I believe at that point you're distilling the best of your collection, Is that how you guys did it? Is that how you did it, Mark? Strat 5150 saying just stick with 10 and upgrade. I like to do that too. And sometimes, what's funny is some of the lower end guitars in the collection actually go up a couple of notches with some upgrades. Where did you buy that Bacchus, Tony? So I bought the Bacchus here, just locally. It was on the used market. And I saw it. I liked it. I liked the flame. And it wasn't very expensive. And I picked it up. And it's a great guitar. Of course, I changed the pickups, but it's still a great guitar. So the Gospel of Mark says, I just sold a PRS to pay for my 335. What is that? Was that an older 335? And what PRS did you sell? Which one did you have? You can't go wrong with a 335, but PRSs are good too. So was that your only PRS, or why did you choose that one to flip for the 335? Bruce says his 25 guitars includes 5 basses, so that's okay. I only have 2 basses. Wayne McDonald says, seems like 55 in the house, eh? 55? Come on, Wayne. Now you guys are just toying with me, I think. It's turning into a pissing match here. Thanks for the 15 guitars and 3 projects. That's true. I didn't consider the projects. That's true. I don't really count the projects as part of the collection till they're finished. But if that's the case, then there would be 3 more and possibly a 4th coming soon for me. Yeah, you got to count the acoustics too. The acoustics and the basses. Hey, Cushman. Nice to see you, buddy. How are things in New York City? The Big Apple. Vox Guitar says it's snowing already. Won't be long before it starts to snow here too. And Cool Tunes Made Easy says starting to snow here. I'm in Toronto. It's coming this way, guys. I think we're scheduled either today or tomorrow to get some here too. So, time to break out the snowshoes and snow gear and skates and skis and all that kind of stuff. Simon says you should try to listen to the Irish progress rock band Horselip from the 1970s. I don't know about them. Are they similar to another style? What do they sound like? What's their style? Okay, so the guitar I'm looking at here, this I'm pretty sure is a veneer. It doesn't. I'm at the price that I paid it. I'm pretty sure it's just a veneer. But the thing is, the veneer seems pretty nice. It does have a little bit of a 3D effect. I don't know if you guys can actually see that, but it's a nice top, you know. So I had to grab it. The price was good. And you know, Bacchus actually has some lines of guitars that are actually very good. A little bit more expensive. The only thing I did was change the nut on this. I put a bone nut in. The tuners are stock. And the tuners, if I'm not mistaken, they look like Kluson tuners, but they don't say Kluson on them. And everything else is stock except the pickups. Vox Guitars says he swapped 2 of his VM70 Squires a couple of days ago. Every time I play it, I wonder why I play anything else. So you didn't like the Squires? I hear good things about those VM Squires. Your live chat isn't working on your phone? I wonder why that is. Sorry, man, I can't help you. I don't know. I haven't seen that issue yet. Dan says Floyd Rose Railtail or Goto VS100N for Beretta Special. Good question. Goto makes really good stuff. The Railtail is good quality too. I usually will opt for something where I don't have to modify anything. So just be careful when you go with some of those. Make sure that you don't have to do an additional routing job, because when you're routing a guitar that does have the paint already on it, you can get chips and ruin the top. So I would say they're both great choices. It's really just a question of accessibility on the guitar itself. So either ask to see whether or not it will fit or take the measurements before you actually order them. Just to be on the safe side then. The video is buffering for me, probably my crappy connection. Okay, thanks for letting me know. I'll try and see whether or not I can see buffering on my end here. So far it seems to be okay. If you guys see any buffering issues, just please let me know. Let me just jump to one of the... I'm just jumping to the bottom of the questions here. Just so I can see what you guys are talking about. Get a vintage VS500. It is an offset ES335. It's funny, I was just looking at the vintage website yesterday, Quicksilver. And I've seen some of those 335s. They're really nice looking guitars. I'm not a big fan of the offset. I like the traditional style guitars more. But for those of you who don't mind the offset, it's a good choice. The vintage stuff is very good, in my experience. I have a 335, an older vintage 335, and I like it a lot. So, all good, man. Bruce says, I lied, just did an actual count, and there are actually only 22, not 25, including the TE90 Quilt Maple in transit. Sorry about the disinformation. No sweat. It's easy to get confused. Dan says, picture and sound is good here. Solid stream. Well, yesterday, it's funny because the internet connection, although I have a fiber internet connection, it varies so much. I was watching TV yesterday and it was buffering like crazy and I had to reboot the modem. So I don't know why that happens, but from time to time, you have to kind of do a hard reset to actually get the max throughput with the hardware. So it could be that the connection usually, you know, is is a little bit slow, but Paul says connection unusually perfect. That's true. Yes, that Bacchus is awesome looking. I like it. I don't play it enough. So let me just scroll down. Speaking of 335s, I want one. Do I get the usual Gibson or consider a Heritage or an Eastman? Al, my opinion, just find one that you like because they're all different. And, you know, the Gibson, you might really like it. But if you play the Gibson side by side with one of the other guitars, you might feel that there's not enough of a difference to justify the cost, and you could be super happy with one of the other ones. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Epiphone just released the 335 models with a new headstock. So you might be able to scratch that itch for a lot less money if you like those as well. I'd like to get another model of a 335, not necessarily a 335, more of the earlier ones with the block inlays, but they're very expensive. I came across a couple of them that were older models, still very expensive, but some of them had issues like broken, repaired headstock and whatnot. But that's the only way you can get one that is not going to be super, super expensive. Vox guitars rock. If your internet keeps dropping out, maybe just do a reset on your modem. That usually helps with me when I have those issues. So one of the things I've been looking at, guys, I don't know if you've seen this or if you noticed this, but because I'm a big Eddie Van Halen fan, I've been noticing a lot of people talking about Eddie Van Halen these days, and there's a lot more information coming out about older stuff that he's done, little snippet videos. Like somebody just posted, I think just a couple of days ago, a full concert that they did in a high school before they were well known, and they were doing a whole bunch of cover songs. And I just stumbled across that information, and I believe that one, they were at the Pasadena High School, and it was like 1975, and they do covers by I think ZZ Top. They play a funky version of Deep Purple's Maybe I'm a Leo, and then there's a Johnny Winters song that they play as well. Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo, their version, and the old James Gang thing. And basically, it's great to be seeing these things coming out. I'm a big fan, so I eat this stuff up. There was another bunch of guys that were talking about the recordings that they did on the early album, and they actually dug out things like the receipts from the recordings to nail down exactly the dates and the studios that they were in, and they were matching it up to some photos that were floating around the internet, and they kind of deduced that a lot of the album that they were talking about, one of the early albums with Jamie's crying on it and everything, Eddie was using the Ibanez Destroyer at the time. For most of the songs that he wasn't using a Floyd Rose on, was actually, they figured out it was actually the Destroyer that he was using. This was before he modified the guitar. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Destroyer is kind of like, it has a big body, right? And he actually took out a chunk of that guitar. He actually cut out like a cheese sliced chunk out of the back of it, probably to lighten up the guitar, because it probably was too heavy for him. And that became the Shark, what they refer to as the Shark. And you can look that up on the internet. And then probably later on, he probably realized that it changed the sound a lot. a missing chunk of wood. Maybe the sustain wasn't there, or I don't know why he did this, but he actually then installed some hardware, these kind of like bolts between the two pieces that were left over to kind of, I guess, bridge the gap and make the guitar sound maybe better, or try and see if he can get more sustain out of it. He did a lot of crazy things like that, Eddie, and that's why I like this stuff, because even after so many years and talking with the rest of the bandmates and everything else, there's still stuff that trickles out and things that we're not quite sure about that still seem to be like floating out there. And there's a lot of urban legends, as to what he did to get that sound. And for me, like a lot of people over the years have discussed the fact that the brown sound was achieved by the Variac. And if you guys don't know what the Variac is, it's a device that basically you can actually vary the AC current coming into, that's why it's called the Variac, the AC current coming into your guitar or whatever device you're trying to power up. And so Eddie figured this out maybe through talking to somebody that was, a gear nut or something, or even an electrician might be able to tell you this, somebody that's into electronics. So he ended up trying the Variac and starving his plexi of the current so that he can probably get the breakup at lower volumes. Because anybody who has played a Marshall plexi knows that you have to play it extremely loud to get those kind of tones, right? So at the end of the day, he probably played around with that stuff. But every time somebody asked Eddie about that and asked him if the amplifier was stock, he always said it was. But I don't think that's entirely true. I think, from what I know, I think that what he did was that he probably, if the amp was probably stock, he definitely starved it with the Variac. But I think he had the amplifier rebiased so the tubes wouldn't crap out on him. And so if you look at the amplifier, you'll think it's stock because you won't actually be able to see any modifications. But by rebiasing the tubes and lowering the current that's going in, you definitely will get a different sound, maybe a little bit more sizzle, the top end. Also, what he did and what has been proven is that they didn't do a lot of takes. The songs that they recorded, as a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, Eruption was maybe one take. There wasn't overdubs and stuff done on that particular song. Other songs, yes, but the early stuff that they recorded was recorded to be like almost live. If you listen to the bass in the early recordings, the isolated tracks, it's very loud, and usually, when you're recording a song to do overdubs and stuff like that, it's not the same technique. And I definitely know that they were miking the guitar amplifiers in two different ways. They would focus one for the high-end sizzle and another one for the thump, and they would mix them together to get that sound. And that's something that is been like a proven thing. So with all this stuff coming out, it's really amazing, and it's still today intrigues me. And I wish somebody would put together like a documentary on this and make this information known so that people who are big fans of Eddie Van Halen would be able to enjoy all of this stuff. Because I eat this stuff up. I could listen to this stuff all day long. So that's part of the scenario. And you know what, Quicksilver, I agree. There's a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of people talking about Eddie and all that stuff. But you know what? We have to appreciate where we're coming from. Everybody in music, everything is related to everything else. If you don't have one artist, you sometimes won't end up with another artist. I was thinking about that the other day, and I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and it's really maybe we had too much to discuss that particular day or whatever. But if you think about it, like things as simple as if Chuck Berry didn't exist, think about the lineage. Think about all the people that he influenced to play guitar and to play music. Think about everybody that might have not picked up a guitar that eventually became famous. Same thing with somebody as simple as Buddy Holly. I mean, if Buddy Holly hadn't recorded with the Crickets, maybe we wouldn't have the Beatles today, because they were heavily influenced by them as well. So, and Eddie, sure enough, absolutely influenced another generation, or maybe 2 or 3 generations of guitarists to pick up the guitar and play. So, I mean, we have to appreciate that. I like to give credit where credit is due. And I hope that, you guys, you appreciate him. I mean, if you're not an Eddie Van Halen fan, I get it. But for me, I mean, he really had a big influence on me. I also listened to the Wolfgang Van Halen tune Distance that he released just recently. And actually, it's a pretty nice song, I gotta admit. The kid did a really good job on it. And it was touching to see the video along with if you listen to the song, it's a nice song. But if you watch the video while you're listening to the song, it's heart-wrenching. You see, all the footage of him and Eddie Van Halen when he was a kid and with the family and everything. And Eddie Van Halen was always treated like a rock god, but I mean, at the end of the day, he was a family man too. And I think it was a really nice thing that he did for his dad. And I think the timing was perfect. And I think, and the funny thing is, I heard that he played all of the instruments on that. He sang on it, guitar, bass, drums, everything. And somebody asked him, if what he considers one of his main instruments, and he actually said drums. So I don't know if he's going to be another Dave Grohl type musician, because we all know Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters is really into playing everything. And if he can do that, fantastic. I think the kid's got the chops, I just wanted to also talk about a couple of other things here. So that was one of the things. The other thing I wanted to mention beyond Eddie and all the Eddie stuff, and the Brown sound, and it was sad when I heard Wolfgang talk about the final days of Eddie and what he was going through, and he ended up admitting that his dad actually had a brain tumor. So it wasn't just a throat thing, it was a brain tumor. He did go to Germany, just like we suspected, a couple of years back, and had a very, I guess, cutting edge type of surgery. It wasn't, maybe not even surgery, it was probably done with radiation or something like that. It was called a gamma knife procedure. So I'm thinking it's more radiation based. And Wolfgang said it worked because they gave him another 3 years with his dad before it actually spread and actually also went into his lungs. So, it wasn't an easy thing for him for sure. And yes, may he rest in peace, absolutely. But, kudos to him. I have to say that Wolfgang did a nice thing for his dad. Let me just go back to the questions. Hey, my friend Buddha is here. Good morning, Buddha. How are you, my friend? How are things in Portugal? Liked your video. Really cool video the other day. Keep it up, my friend. Paul says Dave Friedman did most of the work on Eddie Van Halen's Marshall and only had a couple of small mods that made them all sound like his fave, which was stock. The bias was not changed, just kept perfect stock. I saw that. I heard what Dave said, and I don't believe it. Eddie Van Halen was very notorious for keeping secrets, and he didn't like to have people copy his stuff, and he would do certain things along the years to kind of hide. At the beginning, he was actually playing with his back to the crowds when he was doing the tapping. He didn't want people to see how he was doing that. And so I don't know. I think he had a couple of tricks up his sleeve, and maybe Dave's telling us the truth. Maybe he's not. Who knows? But I know that just by using a Variac, it's not enough to get that sound. I've had people do that, and it wasn't enough. You get closer, but it's not on the ball. Of course, the tone is in the hands, and that has a lot to do with it. But there's something else going on there. Hey, Kraynar, nice to see you, buddy. Thank you for joining us today. Hey, Joey. Nice to see you. Dan says, if there were no Eddie Van Halen, there would be no George Lynch, Ingui, or Warren DeMartini. I think the list goes on and on. I don't think it's just those three people. I mean, you talk to other people and there's a lot of influences. Fat Philosopher says, one of Neil Peart's drum sets from the 70s is up for auction. Can anyone lend me the 120 grand needed to buy it? Sure, man. Sure. Let's all chip in. All right. Here's the catch. If we chip in and you buy it, we each get a turn to drop by your house and play it. All right. I'm in. If anybody else is in, give me a thumbs up. Richard says, yeah, okay, let's get back to talking gear. I guess Richard's not a big Eddie Van Halen fan. Do you consider the Jackson 12 whammy and bridge good for intense things like Van Halen or Dimebag? I mean, are you talking about like doing dive bombs and that kind of thing? The issue is not the whammy on these guitars. The issue is mostly at the headstock. If you're going to be doing things that are very intense, I would say try and go for a locking system. Just for tunability, for sustainability. Because the headstocks on those guitars, because they're shaped at a very steep angle, the strings tend to bind at the nut, and you're going to be constantly tuning your guitar. So, yeah. I don't really go crazy with the whammy bar, so for me, changing the nut on that guitar did the job. I think Jimmy Page will live to over 100. All the black magic he practiced back in the 70s, and the cocaine. You know what? I sure hope he lives. I always said it, and I'll say it again. It's going to be a sad day when Jimmy Page passes away, man. Oh man, I dread that day. You know, Jimmy Page and Keith Richards. To me, Keith Richards is like the measuring stick. You know, when he goes, actually, I'm gonna say Jimmy Page, Keith Richards, and Angus Young. When those guys drop, you know you're getting to the tail end there. I was watching a video on Angus the other day, and he was talking about, you know, they're going on tour again. They got new songs, and it sounds great. It sounds like you know, AC/DC to me. But when I look at Angus, he's starting to look more like Agnes. You know, he's definitely, age is definitely taking a toll on him. He's starting to look like an old lady. So I'm a big AC/DC fan. I love the guys, and I hope they keep rocking for another 50 years. But yeah, I mean, they're getting up there, man. They're getting a little long in the tooth. Let's just take advantage of it and enjoy it till we can. Quicksilver says, do we also get to fart on the throne chair? I recall every wretched episode of that happening at rehearsal all those years ago. That's gross. That's gross. That's a little too much information, Quicksilver. Thanks, man. Thanks. Bruce says, if you take 10 brand new identical amps, they will all sound slightly different. So it makes sense that the amps might have just been tweaked to sound the same. Yeah, it's true. I mean, especially in the old days with hand wired amps and different components and whatnot, for sure. I think that's a fair thing to say. I think Keith Richards made a deal with the devil. Nobody could have lived this lifestyle and survived. Exactly. You know, Keith Richards is like, you know, to me, he's like a cockroach. They just live forever. You can't get rid of them. You know, if they say that if there's a nuclear explosion, the only thing left will be cockroaches because you can't kill them. Whatever it is, man, whatever it is that he did, my hat's off to him. I don't know if it was the drugs, the sex, the blood transfusions that people claim he had or what, but he's still hanging in there, man. Still hanging in. Again, new special Jimi Hendrix models by Gibson at $5,000. Next time we will see special reissue broken guitars in 2 pieces, Pete Townsend by Fender. I know, it's getting ridiculous, Henry. I agree. It's getting ridiculous. They're just trying to think of new ways to charge us an arm and a leg for these guitars. You know, I'm not at all interested in the Jimi Hendrix models. I don't really care too much about the Jimmy Page Telecasters. Any kind of, even like the SRV Strats, all these Signature Series guitars. I mean, it's just smoke and mirrors, guys. I don't know. There's so many great guitars. Just because there's a name on the headstock, they can figure they charge you an extra couple $1,000s. It's the same stuff. Same wood, same guitar, same setup, same procedure, different paint job, and a different decal. I don't get it. Joey says, I replaced the stock Jackson Floyd with a real Floyd special on my JS22 and it is absolutely perfect. Those who complain about the special don't know how to set it up. A DL Trem FU Tone has a great video. Definitely upgrading the Floyd to a real Floyd, if you can get a German-made one, is the way to go. On my Jackson, I put the Vega Trem on it. I had the video on that. Huge difference. Huge difference. But again, not many people will do that because... Why? Well, the Vega Trem is more expensive than the guitar. That's why. So, most people will not want to do that kind of upgrade. But if you really like your guitar and you want to play it, then... that's the way to do it, man. Just upgrade the trem and you're going to have a brand new sounding guitar. How many Slash signatures? I don't know, man. There's a lot. How many reissued Les Pauls have been done? What are we up to now? 10? And every time they release one, it's always the best one so far, the most historically correct, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, it's not a vintage guitar. It's right off, you know, right off the line. So I'd love to see a vintage spec guitar at a reasonable price. What's the big deal? Most of the time, you're talking about like millimeter differences in tolerances. Yeah, okay, you might have maybe better quality woods, but you definitely don't have $4,000 to $6,000 increase in labor and wood. The Les Pauls, honestly, guys, if companies like Bacchus and all these other companies could make a guitar like this, and you can see these budget guitars being cranked out at about, you know, $300, $400, that means, don't forget, in the line there's probably, by the time a guitar gets made and actually sold in the store, there's the manufacturer that has to eat, the distributor has to eat, The wholesaler has to eat. The store has to eat. So there's probably 3 or 4 people making a cut on that guitar by the time it gets to you. And they're still able to crank them out for $300 to $400. That means a guitar with this type of design, you could probably build, if you do it mass production, for $100. You know what I mean? Maybe 150. I'll even stretch it, $200. Okay? So, again, I like Gibsons. I like the idea of having a nice guitar, but I don't like the idea of getting ripped off. And I do feel that's what's happening these days. And it's not just Gibson. Fender's doing it too. Everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. I mean, even guys like Sir. Okay, I like Sir guitars, but I'm looking at the prices and they're going up and up. They've reached $4,000. I've seen them at $4,000 for a Strat style guitar. You know how many guitars I can make with $4,000 if I would buy the components and build it myself? And that would actually be more expensive for me to do that because the costs would be high. I'm not mass producing them where I'm getting thousands of these things. I'm buying one, so I'm paying a premium price. You know how many guitars I can make for that money? A lot. So, I mean, I'm all for great quality. I'm all for craftsmanship. I'm all for all of that. But the prices are getting out of control. Alan says German Floyds are not cheap. Is the Vega Trem a better option? In terms of price, not really. They're still pretty expensive. The Vega Trem, you're looking at, at least $300. If you can get a Floyd used, maybe like a Gibson, a German Floyd someplace used at a decent price, in good condition, that's probably your best option. The Vega Trem also doesn't have a locking nut. So if you're looking at something that you want to get like really similar setup design as a Floyd, you would definitely want to get something with a locking nut. I'm thinking of putting a Vega Trem on my Warlock. Check my video and see if it's a good idea. Has a Kaler on it now. The Kalers are the routing on that is quite a bit different. If I remember correctly, the Kaler system goes well beyond the bridge cavity. If you take out the Kaler system, you might be left with some ugly marks on the top of your body, which I don't know if that's what you would like to have. And the routing is very different. So I don't know if the Floyd it would be a direct drop-in replacement for a Kaler. I couldn't tell you. You would have to take some measurements to see. So before you jump on that, just make sure you check the opening in your guitar. Instead of a Floyd, what about a Goto as an alternative? Yeah, they have some nice ones as well. Goto have some really nice bridges as well. It all depends what you want out of your bridge system. What are you looking for? Because if it really is tuning stability, you definitely want to go with something that has a locking nut, because that's where you're going to get the tuning stability. It's not 100%, however. All of the locking systems that I've tried still go out of tune. You still have to do the fine adjustments at the actual bridge. They help, but they still go out of tune. Then if you want to do anything with alternate tunings, you're kind of stuck. It's not very convenient because you can't just do a open G tuning or drop D tuning. You can use the D tuner for the drop D, but generally you're not going to be able to do all of that. So it depends on the style of music that you play. You might have to have another guitar available. All right, let's try and get a different sound here. Sonic lead. Don't really like that. Turn down the master. Okay, so not sure if you saw my question. Sorry, Rico, I probably didn't. About Jalen Frankie pickups. Any thoughts? Still looking for my Squier Contemporary Strat. Jalen makes really nice pickups. And he does have some nice high output pickups. If you're looking for that sound, I don't know how close they actually sound to the EVH thing. I haven't tried those particular pickups, but they do make some really nice pickups. And they're not that expensive, so, you know, definitely worth a shot. I don't know what the output is on those. I haven't checked out the specs on them yet. So you want to put together an HSS Contemporary Squier. I always had issues with any kind of Strat with an HSS configuration. And I'll tell you why. Because there's been a lot of issues for me on those guitars because of the fact that the humbucker requires a 500K pot and the single coils require a 250K pot. And I always felt that for me, switching between the humbucker and the single coils had a big jump in tone, in sound, like output, and the fatness of the humbucker going to the thinness of the single coils. I always felt that it wasn't a good balance, and I've struggled with that. A lot of people have given suggestions where they say, well, instead of putting in a 500K pot, go with a 350K pot, which is in between the two. It'll be less of a difference, but I've always felt at the end that it's either best, at least for me, to keep a guitar with single coils, or keep a guitar with humbuckers, or maybe do the humbucker and the single coil humbucker drop-in replacement to at least balance the sound up a little bit more. I haven't found a good compromise yet for that. So I don't know if that answers your question, but for me, right now, the only guitar that I have that has a humbucker and single coils in it is my Sir Standard Pro. And even with that, I messed around with it quite a bit. I changed pickups in it to try and get a more balanced sound out of it. I'm still not happy with it. I think it would be best to have that guitar either all single coils or humbucker. And at the end, I was actually contemplating ordering a pick guard from Sir and dropping in another humbucker in there, which would make it sort of a little bit closer to like the Pete Thorne model type of thing. I haven't done it yet though, but I'm contemplating maybe doing that. Has anyone had any really good Black Friday deals? That's what I asked at the beginning, Joey. All I've seen is pricing anyone can get by calling the sellers. Typically, that's what I've seen too, Joey. You're lucky if you get 15%, 10%, you know, on older model stuff. Nothing too crazy. I haven't seen any wow deals. However, there might be more deals on amps than on guitars. So maybe anybody out there in the market for an amp. I know we talk about guitars quite a bit, but let's not forget about amps. Rico says, have you looked at the Sawtooth MABST24 yet? Remember Zim's guitars reviewed mine. I did look at that. I'd love to get my hands on a model to review. They look like interesting guitars. They have a nice selection, and they also have some relic ones, if I'm not mistaken. I'd like to eventually check that out, Rico. I'm working on it, man. Keith says my dog caught guitar cord last night. He flipped my new Katona off my old amp, broke guitar cord at input jack, and apparently amp input jack. Ay, yeah, man. You know, having guitars on stands, like I have this stuff here on stands. I have some guitars here on stands. I always dread that. I prefer to keep them in the case. But unfortunately, it's only happened to me once where I actually walked by and snagged a jack and tipped over a guitar. But it will happen. It will happen, especially if you have dogs. And you can't blame the poor dog, you know. Flamma has a modulation pedal now. They have a few. It's not just one. They have a nice selection of pedals. And I like to check that out as well. This one is cool because the reason why I got this one for a review, and I'll explain it to you guys in more detail during the review. This one's cool because it doesn't sound like a typical delay. So if you already have like a typical delay, this one is not that. This one has like really quirky little delays built in there. So you can actually do more than your standard delay sounds. And when I do the video, I'll show you what I mean. But they have some pretty interesting stuff. The stuff that's really been interesting for me, and things that's giving me gas right now. I know we're going to be talking about amps in a little bit. But one of the things I've been playing around with a lot of multi-effects unit, but one of the multi-effects unit that I really like, and I probably would like to get my hands on, would be the TC Electronic, what do they call it? The Plethora. Plethora X5. So this thing retails for, I think, about $498 US. And what it is it's an effects pedal board made by TC Electronics with true or buffered bypass in it. You have your standard stuff like a tuner, you have tap tempo, you have global selectable cab simulations built in. And the really cool thing is that you can actually program a series of 127 different boards. So like a multi-effects unit, you have built-in sounds. This one is similar, except they have individual slots for effects. And you can actually mix and match all of the TC Electronic effects on the board. So you can basically you have banks so you can save up to 127 different pedal board layouts and recall them on the fly. And you have 75 tone print slots per pedal, right? So it's really an amazing piece of gear in terms of software. And it's pretty affordable, only $498. That means that you can basically, in one device with no patch cords, you can actually go and do a 4-cable method where you're doing your guitar to the unit, and then the effects loop inside your amplifier. So you're going to the front of the amplifier, and then you're bringing the send return off the back. And you basically have a beautiful gig board, very small, very compact, and everything's in there. If you like the TC Electronics stuff, you're in business. Think about that, man. Really nice. I've only seen this recently, and I like the TC Electronics stuff. I have to admit, the only thing I think that they don't have that I like, that they haven't made one that I like so far, is a drive pedal. I'm not really crazy about that, about what they have so far. But as far as, I mean, I have the flashback on my board. I have the Hall of Fame 2 on my board. I have the Corona, the Corona chorus pedal also. I have the Polytune on there. So, I mean, I already have 4 pedals from TC Electronics, you know, so you can definitely do a lot with this thing. Yeah, so that's sort of on my radar. I don't know if you guys have seen this. So Quicksilver says the only slight problem with that is that it does not include their analog overdrive pedals for obvious reasons. So basically only modulation, reverb, and delay. That's right. But it's okay because I don't like their overdrive pedals. So you can easily plug in a drive pedal in there. So you can actually have that unit, have your overdrive pedals, if you want to have your, drive, boost pedals, whatever it may be. I'm okay with that. I really am. I think it would also lower the noise floor substantially because you don't have any patch cables going back and forth, and it would simplify your board a whole lot. So I don't know, I'd like to try it out. I mean, it looks good on paper. The thing with TC Electronics is they suck at demos, because every time I see a TC Electronic demo, all I hear is there's playing, but there's always somebody talking over the playing. So either talk or play. Don't do both at the same time. Alan says too many pedals destroy the signal from the guitar. Yeah, there's definitely a chance of overkill. It really is in the hands of the chef how you use the effects. You can either saturate your sound, the Edge, where his sound is his effects, or you can just use it very sparsely and add a little bit of extra zing to the flavor. It really depends on how you like to use it. Damon, a couple of people have asked me that, okay? So does the Helix sound better than the Nooks MG300? I couldn't answer that because I haven't tried the Helix. I've tried the Head Rush. I've tried a lot of Line 6 stuff. I've tried the Boss multi-effects units, the Ampero stuff. I've tried that. The Flamma stuff I've tried. But I haven't tried the Helix. I've tried the small, what do they call it? The Podgo from Line 6 before I bought the Hotone Ampero. And that one was more expensive than the Ampero. And I liked the sounds on the Ampero more. They sounded more realistic to me. When you're playing through an amp, you have that rawness that comes through. I got more of that from the sound, where the other one, the Line 6 unit, seemed a little bit too overproduced, a little bit too, what's the word I'm looking for? Too processed, if you know what I mean, which I didn't really go for. So I couldn't really answer that, unfortunately. Sorry, man. Cohen says, I was gassing for an FX board for a brief moment earlier this week, but then I watched my rack and pedal board and I think, nah. The best sound is always straight into your amplifier with maybe one pedal, two pedals max. But most of my board, and I showed you guys what I have on my board, it's always changing, but I really mostly use my board to tailor the sound. I think the pedal that gets used most is the EQ pedal. The EP booster, which is, it doesn't really have a sound. It just boosts the frequencies a little bit. And the tuner, and then of course I always add a little bit of reverb. I like the reverb and sometimes some delay. But I use the delay mostly for a slap back, just to add air to the sound. And even the reverb, I usually go with a plate reverb just to add a little bit more sizzle. Hey Gary, how are you, my friend? Hello, and I have 3.5 guitars. The half I'm building have all the parts. Awesome, man. What guitar are you building? What style of guitar is that, Gary? Let us know. I have a few on the way too. Paul says, I have at least $20,000 USD. I have 70 pedals I actually use live on 2 boards linked. Paul knows a lot about pedals, guys, so if you want to ask him some questions, he's a good resource. Maybe that pedal show will do a review on the Plethora so you can waste 3 hours of hearing nothing. Come on, Dan. There's a lot of blah blah on that show, but then again, there's a lot of blah blah on my show as well. So, you know, believe it or not, guys, and I don't know, maybe you agree. Tell me if you do, because I could always modify how I do things. I get a lot of people complaining that when I show a guitar or explain a review a guitar, that I do too much talking. What do you guys think about that? Be honest. I can take it, okay? Because my point of view on that is that if you want to hear a guitar, there's a zillion YouTube videos, people playing that guitar. And everyone will sound different because it's going through different gear. It's recorded a different way. Some of them do post-processing, some of them don't. Some of them record with their phones, some of them don't. So there's a million videos on that as well already. So I have no trouble finding those type of videos. But when I buy a guitar, what I want to get out of it is the details. Tell me about the guitar. How does it play? How is it set up? How does it feel? How much does it weigh? What do you like about it? What don't you like about it? I mean, you have to spend time with an instrument to really be able to tell if it's right for you. And just hearing a guitar, yeah, it might sound good in the recording. I've purchased a lot of gear because of some videos that I've watched that sound great. And then you buy the product or you buy the pedal and it sounds nothing like that in real life. And then you bring it back or you sell it, So I don't know, man. Let me know what you think. I'm honestly asking you that question. I just want to know what you guys... I'm willing to make videos where I don't talk at all and just play stuff and, whatever. But I really don't feel personally that adds much value. There's got to be a balance, I think. Because a lot of people give me heck, man. I could read you a bunch of comments that are like, wasted my time, blah, blah, blah. It's too much talking. It's like, whatever. I mean, I'm sticking with my guns because I do think I will try to add more value by actually giving you the information on the stuff. Yeah, sure, I'll throw in a bit of playing, but I mean, I really don't think that's the main selling point, because on YouTube it's very difficult. You have YouTubers that are very, very good at getting a great sound out of their recordings because they do spend a lot of time post-processing their stuff, especially when you hear the demo and they're playing over a track where there's a bass and drums and whatever. I mean, that won't sound anything like the real item that you're reviewing if you're just playing it straight out. So I find that more of a show. Like, okay, the guy can play. He's got a nice produced song, but that doesn't tell me how the actual item sounds. When I'm doing my research and I'm trying to figure out whether or not I want something, I'll normally look at the recordings that are recorded the worst. Because at that point, I have a benchmark. I'm like, if this guy can get a decent sound out of his phone with nothing, going into his amplifier straight, it gives me a better indication of what the thing would actually sound like than a full-blown production, Fat Philosopher says, Tony, why not just use a 250 pot for the humbucker in the HSS? Well, because... Okay, so when you're... how do I explain this to you? The higher the K, the more highs you're going to get. So now, if you put a 250K pot, it won't sound the best. It's going to sound rather dull. So that's why a lot of people will take the in-between. They'll go with 350, 375 to split the difference. The other thing you can possibly do is to see if you can find somebody that makes a push-pull pot. I believe there's two versions. There's a push-pull where you can actually, it's basically a stacked pot. So if you're going into the humbucker, you can actually pull it and have 500K and then push it back in when you're going to the single coils. Then there's also, I believe, a manufacturer that will, if it's full up, I believe there is a manufacturer that could make a pot that will switch between 250 and 500 depending on where you're at. So if the sweep is from 1 to 9, it's 250. If you put it all the way up, it's 500. But they're hard to find. Elmar, thank you, man. So Elmar thinks my reviews are okay. I appreciate that. One of the things I was trying to also consider doing is going back into my reviews. I have a lot of reviews, and some of them actually span back over 10 years, and they're still on the internet, including some things that I've done where I was actually trying to teach people how to play songs back in the day and actually doing some singing. Yeah, I'm not a singer, guys, but they're still out there, warts and all. There are a few very badly recorded videos that I made before I got the hang of it, and I would love to get an opportunity to maybe redo some of those. Unfortunately, some of the gear that I reviewed back then is gone, so I can't do all of them, but I might redo some of them. Yeah, so Randy's got it. So use a split pot, 250, 500. That's what I was talking about. That's probably the best solution. Joey says, sorry, I missed the conversation. I got to back up a little bit. Just going to go back a little bit on some of the comments here because I lost track. If I missed any of your questions, because I'm jumping around in the questions, just ask them again at the bottom because I missed the middle section. You guys are going too fast with the questions here. So, okay, so Joey says, I'm going to be going into the guitar business, got my tax ID, doing my first major buy in 2 weeks. Wish me luck. Hey, Joey, you know what? We all wish you luck, man. I believe if you can do what you love, you'll be successful. Let me know what you need. I mean, what is it that you're trying to do? What are you going into exactly? And keep me posted, man. If I can help you in any way, I'm more than happy to do so. The guitar industry is not an easy thing, man. It really isn't. A lot of people are trying, and you have to have a little bit of luck. But if you produce a good product, I think people are always looking for great products. So just work hard and try your best, and people will find you, man. Rico wants to know, back on your HSS topic, my John 5 HH Telecaster has 250 factory pots. Sound great. I mean, it really depends on how it's set up, you know. The Wolfgang I had in-between pots. It was 375, I believe. And it had humbuckers in it. It depends on how the guitar is set up, what kind of pickups it's using, if they're bright pickups or not. If you want more cut, you know. Henry says, where do you stand now with your kits? Do you know the Stratosphere shop? Here they sell Gibson and Fender parts, body and neck from returns, I suppose. Yes, I do know the Stratosphere. I don't buy from them anymore. I had a bad experience with them. I ordered a neck. They sent me the absolute wrong neck. It was a Strat neck that I ordered a specific type and model. They sent me something different. They made a mistake, obviously, when I asked them if I could return it so they can ship me the right one. They said the other one was sold, and they didn't want to. They were giving me a hard time, and they hardly offered any kind of compensation for their mistake. And I paid pretty much full price for a neck I didn't want. So ever since then, I don't buy from them anymore. A lot of people still do. I believe their prices are very high. I believe that they gouge on shipping costs. And so they're very popular. They got a lot of stuff out there, but I don't buy from them anymore. Dan says, you do a great job on staying on target. That is information that I look and you deliver. Thank you, man. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate that, buddy. I don't use any of the pedals I have, and I keep buying the damn things. Guitar, chord, amp, def. I have a similar problem. My problem is that I buy too many drive pedals. I buy too many drive pedals. I'm always looking for another drive pedal. I don't know why. Like you buy an EQ, that's it. You have the EQ, you stop looking most of the time. You buy a delay pedal. Okay, you might have another one just to get something that one doesn't have, but usually one or two. But when it comes to drive pedals, distortion pedals, a whole bunch. Alan says, I prefer to hear your opinion on gear. If you want to hear how it sounds, go and try it yourself. Couldn't agree more, Alan. Couldn't agree more. I'd rather hear your analysis. Can always find the guitar sound. Absolutely. And there's guys that play better than me too, guys. I find the sound demos and reviews a bit useless. I'm more interested in an opinion or an experience. I agree. I agree with you, man. Sample needed. I like the narrative speech because you can't really judge the sound on YouTube compression settings, so describing it is an added bonus. And when I do make a sound sample for anything, a guitar or a pedal or anything like that, I try my best to get the closest sound to what I'm hearing in the room. And it's not always easy. It really isn't. Depending on what you're playing through and how you're recording it, you need to have really good gear to be able to get what you're hearing in the room without any additional coloration. And oftentimes we're dealing with, software that's not cutting edge. We're dealing with microphones that are not the best. So, I try my best, but it's never going to be like what you're hearing in the room, including like the reverberation of the room and all that. The playing doesn't add much value over YouTube and your iPhone speaker. I prefer your expert opinion. Thanks, man. I do appreciate you guys. I just want to qualify myself just to make sure that I'm on the right track here. Denai says I'm here because of your PF, because of your knowledge and experience. Thank you, man. I try and share whatever I know with you guys as much as I can. I agree, Tony. Everyone playing through different resources, recording effects, and I kind of zone out of those reviews. Tony, doing a great job. Love your reviews, and like you said, balance. Yeah, so I do have the gift of gab, guys. I apologize for that sometimes. I try and make the videos short and sweet, but honestly, sometimes there's just so much to say that I look at the time and I'm like, almost 20 minutes in, and then I actually have to condense it down even further. And sometimes the review is still like 15 or 16 minutes. and I feel like I haven't even like given all the information yet. So I try my best to keep it short and sweet, but I just find that videos that are too short are just teasers. Much of my gear was bought from advice of YouTubers. The rest was just compulsive shopping. Yeah, you got to keep that compulsion under control as much as you can. Information is priceless. That being said, I dig your voice. Thanks, Randy. I appreciate that, man. You guys are funny. Most of the time, they seem like they're trying to display their playing on the guitar. Yeah. And some of them are really good players. I have to admit, they do a great job. I think all guitar demos need to talk about the neck radius and profile more. Most people cannot put their hands on a guitar before they buy it. Exactly. That's what I think too, man. If I'm going to buy a guitar, I want to know the ins and outs first, Like if somebody tells me a guitar is neck heavy, right off the bat, I scratch that off the list. If it's really heavy as a guitar overall, that's no good for me. It really isn't. The radius on the neck is super important. A lot of people want to buy a Strat, for example, or something, and they don't realize that the necks are all different. And if you're not into a vintage profile neck, where the radius is quite dramatic, you're not going to like that guitar. So it's good to know that before you go in, or maybe buy something off eBay based on a reviewer, and then not like the guitar. Joey says he's going to be working home and online, looking to start with good quality B stock and overstock for the love of guitar. Shop name, awesome. Hey Joey, let us know when you're actually in business, man. I'd love to check out what you got. All right, don't be shy, and I'm willing to help you out any way I can once you get going. Got to get my foot in the door. That's the hardest part, getting your name out there, man. Thanks, Elmar. Thank you very much, buddy. Split pot, yeah. Fat Philosopher says, I was super surprised my 86 Honda Warlock had a compound radius. That's a good surprise, isn't it? I like compound radius necks. Joey says, definitely too many 15-year-old virtuosos out there. Shred is readily available. Sage advice, and honesty is not. I'm going to tell you specifically the honesty part. I mean, even, the big names out there, and I don't want to put anybody down because, look, everybody's doing their own thing, and, kudos to anybody that has a successful channel. It's not easy getting the clicks. It's not easy getting the support and the views. YouTube is definitely throttling down people that are not already at 100,000 subscribers and that kind of thing. I'm not there yet. And the guys that I've been watching for years and years do a great job. But you can almost see how they kind of jump the shark. For those of you who are old like me and used to watch Happy Days, you'll know what I'm talking about. You get to the point where, you're building up your viewers and you're doing your reviews and they're honest reviews and you're not getting stuff for free. So you don't really care about being honest. And, you can see that there's a certain amount of truth and, they're looking to find the problems when they're doing a review. And then after a while, they become popular and they start getting stuff for free. And then their reviews become kind of whitewashed. They're no longer looking for problems. They're just saying how great the guitar is, or how great the amp is, or how great the pedal is. You'll notice that they rarely talk about issues. And that's where I realize that, okay, they've gotten to the point now that it's become a business, right? And they're making money from it. And so they're no longer just sharing the information because they want to share it. Now it's like, I got to review this guitar and I got to make it sound good because somebody gave it to me for free. Or I got to overlook this glaring issue that this guitar has, but make everything else sound good. You got to be honest, guys. I mean, honestly, if somebody would send me something for free and I thought it was garbage, I wouldn't review it, man. I would just send it back. I really would. I don't know. I just find it's dishonest. Guys, if you have any questions, I've been talking a lot, but I'm here to answer your questions. So let's get a couple of questions in before we wrap up. I've been talking now for an hour and 45 minutes. Today went by like that. Henry says, Tony, which products you use to clean your guitars after playing it, considering different types of lacquer? Good question. I don't go crazy with a whole bunch of cleaners on my guitars. Honestly, I don't. The lacquer is the more sensitive thing. Poly is not an issue to clean, really, because it's like plastic. I just use a good quality cloth. I try not to use something that I use on anything else, so that doesn't have little like pieces of grit in it, because that'll leave scratches on your guitar. So whatever I use as a cloth will only be used to polish guitars and nothing else, and that'll avoid the little scratches. Poly is easy to clean. The 65 stuff from Dunlop is fine. It comes in a little spray. You can use that. You can also use wax, but wax on poly is not really necessary. You'd use wax on raw wood. For the neck, to get out the grime, and I don't go crazy with this too much. I don't clean my guitars every day. I just clean them whenever I do a restring. But I'll try and hydrate the fretboard if it's required. I don't go crazy with that because too much is not good. But I use lighter fluid to clean the gunk off the neck, like Rossignol lighter fluid. Just a little dab on a piece of tissue paper or whatever, cleans the gunk off nicely. I'll hydrate the neck with mineral oil that you can get from a pharmacy. It's a little clear bottle that looks like baby oil. It's not baby oil, it's mineral oil, but a bottle this size will cost you about $5 or $6. It'll last you forever. And I like that because it doesn't have any color, doesn't have any smell, and it's not toxic. You can actually drink the stuff. People use it for when you can't poop. So you put that on, a little dab, it'll penetrate and get the fretboard nice and hydrated. And that's, when you're playing it and you get that stuff on your hands, it's not toxic. A lot of the stuff that you buy has weird chemicals in it, and I don't really like that. I'll stay away from stuff like lemon oil, the stuff that you can get in the store, like Murphy's oil and all that kind of stuff. There's like colors in there, there's chemicals in there, and it's just diluted with other stuff, and you don't really need that. And to polish, I mean, you can get some stuff that has carnauba wax in it. You got to be careful when you're doing anything with lacquer, because there are lacquer-friendly products, and there are some that are not lacquer-friendly, so you have to be careful with that. But I wouldn't go too crazy. Sometimes just polishing with the cloth is enough to get the fingerprints off and the dust off, and that's all I do. I don't sweat that much when I'm playing my guitars, so I don't have caked in grime. But if I do, that spray, the 35 Dunlop 35 spray, does the job. So you weren't expecting the compound radius on a 34-year-old guitar. They were doing that stuff a long time ago, man. But yeah, it is a great find for sure. And it's a nice old guitar, 34 years, man. I like the old guitars. I said it many times. I think the woods actually mature and they sound better over time. They definitely change. Joey says, I have the LBX1. The V30s will definitely bring out the Can of Bees sound if you don't control it. I've had my best luck with the 4x12, but it screams through my Carvin and Randall 2x12. Some of the lunchbox style guitars are really nice. one of them that's actually been giving me gas lately, and I'm trying not to be influenced too much on it, just because, honestly, do I need another amplifier? But the one that I've been looking at lately is the Rev G20. It retails for about $1,200. It's made here in Canada. Rev is a really nice company, and they have this is a lunchbox style amp, 20 watts, and it's switchable down to 4 watts. And it's a combination of 12 AX7s and 6 V6 tubes. Very small, not too big, and it's very light. I think it's about 9 pounds. So it's very easy to carry around with you if you want to take it with you to gigs and whatnot. The cool thing about this amplifier is it's got built-in two-note torpedo reactive load in it and cab sims. So you can actually connect to it for recording and basically emulate a reactive load and a cab simulation. And that's a really interesting thing for anybody that's doing recordings and you want to do recordings quietly. That's an easy way of doing it. And they sound good, man. It has a really nice sound to it. It can definitely give you enough gain. It can also do like the Keith Richards type of, breakup type of crunch sound as well. So it's not just geared to metal or high gain stuff. I'm not sure how much clean you can get out of it. You can probably get some cleans by dialing back the volume knob a little bit, but it's I don't think it's like a super clean amplifier, but it looks good. So, that's one of the amps that I have on my radar, just because it has a lot of flexibility built into it. And the other one is the Marshall Studio Plexi. But then again, I already have a couple of amplifiers that do that Plexi thing very well. So I'm thinking, do I need another one? But I'd like to try the Studio Plexi. I haven't seen them in stores yet close to me, so I haven't been able to try one myself, but maybe one day I'll take a little drive around and see who has one and try it out. Hey Joey, never give up, man. Never give up. Follow your dream. We need more stuff out there. We rely on you to come out with good stuff. You're making a great point, Tony. It becomes a biz, too full, too fluff gear. Yeah. Like Andertons was good. I used to like Andertons very early on because they weren't really, they hadn't gotten into the swing of it. So the stuff was still raw. It was still, kind of, they made mistakes, and now it's like they're in full production. It's almost like they have their own actual channel on TV, where the next thing is going to be commercials, beyond the YouTube commercials. They're going to have their own commercials. It's actually become one big commercial now. So it's like, I don't know. I kind of stopped watching their stuff because it's kind of always the same now. I have V30s for my Plexi, and they are somewhat harsh. He is 12 years old and want to encourage but not lead to his deafness. You got to be careful with the Plexis, man. Get an attenuator if you can. How do you know if a fretboard needs refretting and not a recrowning? When, look, it's kind of like a balancing act, because if you have a fret that is really, really divoted, you're going to have to do a leveling and a recrown, right? At a certain point, you just run out of meat, and the frets are really, really like low, and it's very difficult to do a proper recrown when you run out of meat. So at a certain point, you have to kind of judge. When the old Gibsons, they call them fretless wonders and stuff, a lot of them are really like flat because they've been used up quite a bit. So if you get to that point where you got to bring down all of the rest of the frets because one of the frets has a very substantial divot in it, you're doing your guitar more harm than good, because then you got to take out the metal from all of the other frets to get down to the low point in the fret that you have the issue with. At that point, you might want to consider a refret job, except the refret jobs are pretty expensive. You're going to probably be paying about $300 or so for a refret job. Does that answer your question, Fat Philosopher? Tony, any opinion on the Gretsch Electromatic G5425 Jet Club guitar? I like them. I don't own any Gretsch guitars at the moment, but when I tried it, it felt nice in my hands and it had a really nice sound to it. I don't know if I'm much of a Gretsch guy. Like, I don't see myself playing that style of guitar, but it sounded good. So who knows? Maybe in the future I might end up being enticed by one of them. Are you considering getting that one, Alan? Why do you ask? Fat Philosopher says Anderton sometimes call out products. I remember Rob really not liking headless guitars. Yeah, but you see, that's sort of an opinion. That's not really like you. If you're gonna do a review on a guitar and you don't like that style, I get it. Like, I don't see myself playing certain guitars. But if I would do a review on a guitar like that, I would leave my opinion out of it at that point. Like, I wouldn't necessarily just say, oh, I don't like this guitar because it's headless. Then why are you reviewing it? You know, if you're reviewing something, it's probably because you like it. So if you don't like it, then talk about something else. That's what I mean, is when they get to the point where they have to review stuff because it's stuff that they're selling in the store. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you're kind of, how can I say this? I mean, conflict of interest almost, you know? And then the fact that Chapman makes his own guitars, you know, and they've had these blind shootouts and stuff like that. And it's like, at what point are you going to talk about your own stuff? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm not really sure if I buy all of the hype anymore. Would you still review pedals even if I didn't like a sound? Because would I still review pedals even if I didn't like the sound? Because they all do something, and just because I don't prefer doesn't mean someone else won't. You just explain it and show. That's what yeah, exactly. There you go. It's kind of what I meant when what I just said. If you're going to do a review, like, you can review anything, but be honest, right? So if you don't like a particular pedal because you don't play metal and it's a metal pedal, I understand that, right? You're not going to go out and you wouldn't be the one to actually go out and buy that pedal. But if someone's sending you a metal pedal, are you just going to say, I don't like this pedal because I don't like metal? There's the dilemma. I use linseed oil after every string change. Maybe too much. Yeah, it might be too much. Typically, they recommend hydrating your neck maybe once or twice a year. If you change your strings very often, that might be overkill. And what actually could end up happening is all that oil eventually could loosen up your frets and swell the wood. And linseed oil is good for certain things, but linseed oil also has a buildup. Be careful on that. Andertons make great videos, but are bad to deal with if you have a problem. I wouldn't know. I never bought anything from Andertons. They're too far from me. And that's also the case of when you become too big. If you become too big, what ends up happening is and then you don't have time anymore. You know? Has anyone used Celestion Texas Heat speakers? Any good? I think I did try those speakers at one point, Rich. And as I remember, if I can remember, I tried them in my Blues Junior. and I didn't keep them. I don't remember why I didn't particularly. I was going after a specific sound. I wanted to have something with a little bit more breakup in it. I remember the Texas Heat, they sounded good. I didn't think they sounded bad. They just weren't the sound I was looking for in that particular amplifier. What amp are you trying to match them up with? Because that's one thing I noticed. Just because an amplifier sounds good on one amp doesn't necessarily mean it's going to react the same way on another amp. So you have to kind of, that's the hard part about finding the right speaker for your amplifier. You have to kiss a lot of frogs before you find the right one. Sean says, that's all lemon oil is, mineral oil. Some companies will just use mineral oil and tint it with some yellow. It's not actually lemon oil. Some of it. Some of it is, though. Depends where you're getting it from. They're not all the same. Thanks for your reply. What is the neck like for small hands? Keith says, anyone has seen Hail, Hail, Rock and Roll? I think that's the name. Chuck Berry messes with Keith Richards bad. The old days, Chuck played 300 days a year, used house bands like Bruce Springfield or Bruce Springsteen. I remember watching documentaries where Keith Richards mentions being punched in the face by Chuck Berry. Chuck Berry was Keith Richards' idol. That's one of the reasons why he got into playing guitar, and he finally had the opportunity to play with him. And Chuck Berry, at that point, I don't know what the issue was, but he was maybe not a happy camper or not as friendly as Keith Richards would have wanted him to be. And at one point, I remember watching the documentary, and Keith Richards was learning a song, and in that song he had to play sort of an intro lick to the solo, and he was consistently getting it wrong, and Chuck Berry was getting frustrated at him and asking him to do it again and do it again and do it again till he can get it right. And you could see the frustration on Keith Richards' face, and Chuck Berry kind of told him off. And at one point, Keith said that Chuck Berry left the room and Keith touched his guitar. And Keith Richards, while he was touching the guitar, I guess Chuck Berry came back in and he saw him touching his guitar, and he went up to smacked him in the face and told him never to touch his guitar again. So how would that make you feel if you finally meet your idol after all these years? The person that actually that you idolize and got you into music, and he treats you like that and he punches you in the face. Well, at least that's something you'll never forget. Tony, ever try Shawbuckers? If so, what's your thoughts? I've tried to get some. I actually was very interested in trying to get some Shawbuckers. They're extremely expensive, so I wasn't able to get my hands on some for a reasonable price, unfortunately. But I hear wonderful things about Shawbuckers. And the stuff that I've seen, they sound like they're really, they have that authentic PAF sound, if that's what you're looking for. Just the price. The price has always been an issue for me. Yeah, exactly. So you saw it too, right? He was in Chuck Berry's dressing room and made the mistake of touching Chuck Berry's guitar, and Chuck Berry basically punched him. Yeah, he punched him in the face. And Keith Richards is a great storyteller, man. He's very well spoken, even though he seems like he's a wino and he's out of it most of the time. He's very well spoken. His stuff is like, if you start watching some of his interviews and documentaries and stuff like that, he's very entertaining, I gotta say. So you're thinking about putting Celestion Texas Heat in a Fender Twin. And why do you want to change your speakers on the Fender Twin? What do you want to try and tame? Is it the highs? You want to get more breakup out of it? What are you trying to do? Paul says, the demo is not a review, just an infomercial. I review pedals with a good deal of subjectivity, but I also admit it. And that's the key. Be honest, you know. Honesty. Henry says, being a beginner, I don't use pedals. I am playing with a Roland Cube 30 multi-effects, not the best, but sufficient for my level. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that, man. It's, you know, you upgrade as you get better and as you need. Fat Philosopher, I recently ordered a Telecaster from Mandertons. Don't shoot me. We know, your purple Telecaster. Let us know when you get it, and I want to hear a full review on that. All right, a full honest review. Corky Cat, yeah, best use for linseed oil is cricket bats. I don't play cricket. Cricket bats. That's funny, man. Rico says, a great show again. Tony, got to run. Heading back to sunny Arizona. Take it easy, Rico. Thank you for tuning in, my friend. Have a great day. All right, guys. I think it's going to be about time we wrap it up. It's 2 hours in, and I think we had a pretty nice chat this Sunday. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. If there's stuff that you want me to check out specifically on this channel, like, let me know, man. There's you guys have a lot of great suggestions and often bring up some brands and gear that I hadn't considered checking out. And if there's anything specifically you want me to check out and I can oblige, I will be happy to do that. Henry says, Tony, by the way, I didn't like Telecaster, but now I need one. Telecaster is just beautiful. Dude, you don't have to tell me about it. I love Telecasters, man. Some people just don't like Telecasters. I get it. They're maybe not ergonomic. They're not the prettiest guitars to look at. But in terms of playability and tone, if you get a good one, they're just amazing. And don't buy with the price tag. Honestly, man. You know, I have a 52 reissue and I rarely play it. And I have other Telecasters here and I play them most of the time. So, you know, just because something's expensive doesn't necessarily make it the best playing guitar. I use Fender Custom Shop branded cleaning products on all my guitars, and am I wasting my money? I don't know. How much are you spending on that stuff? A lot of that stuff comes from the same place. So like for example, if you buy carnauba wax, for example, you buy a little bottle like this in the store, they can charge you like 10, 12 bucks. You can buy a huge bottle of carnauba wax for the same amount of money. It's going to last you a lifetime. Same thing with the mineral oil. You know, a lot of the stuff that the hydrating products, it's just mineral oil, rebranded. You know, $6, you get a huge bottle, lasts you forever. What else? You know, the nut sauce stuff that they sell you to put in here, you can get a little pen like that from your local hardware store. Special type of lubricant, not that expensive, will last and work just as well as the nut sauce stuff. So yeah, I mean, if you're not sure, especially if you're using a lacquer type finish on your guitars, definitely read the bottle first, because some stuff will react with the lacquer and you don't want to have that happen. Poly is a lot easier to care for. So if most of your guitars are poly, you're probably wasting your money. If it's raw wood, you want to be more careful. So Rich said he's trying to get a little bit of distortion and decent cleans. Yeah, that's the thing with the twins, is you got to crank the crap out of them to be able to get any kind of distortion at a reasonable level. All right, so I don't know if they're going to give you more distortion. My opinion is that they probably will not. As far as the cleans go, have you tried the V-type speakers from Celestion? I put a V-type speaker in my Supersonic, and I liked the way it sounded. It definitely sounded better, in my opinion, than the stock Fender speaker in there. Check out the specs on that. Just Celestion V-type. There's V-type and A-type. And check those out. And if you can see the graph on the EQ readings on that, it'll give you a good idea of which one might be better for you. Hey Mike, just wanted to share. Tired of your stop bar hitting your guitar top? Put a small suction cup against it. Then the rest of your strings. Very safe. Hope you and your folks here will like this. So let me get this straight. So, tired of your stop bar hitting your guitar top? Put a small suction cup against it. The rest of your strings. Very safe. Hope you... So the stop bar. So, why would the stop bar be hitting your guitar top? Are you talking about a floating bridge? A floating temporal? Because for me, this is the bridge. This is the tailpiece or stop bar, whatever you want to call it. So are you talking about this type, or are you talking about a floating trem system? Just want to understand your tip, because it seems like it's a good tip. All right, so if most of your guitars are poly, yeah, you're definitely wasting your money. Just get a good poly cleaner. You can probably get the cheapest stuff out there and it'll do the job. Hey Kush, man, thank you, man. Thank you for giving me your vote of approval. I do appreciate that. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I think that's going to be it for now, unless there's any last-minute questions. I think everybody's spent 2 hours of their busy day with me, and I do appreciate all of that. I really do think you guys are a big help in giving me some honest advice, and also giving me some tips of things I should check out. Like Barry says, I should review the Angelico products. I'll keep that in mind, definitely. I'll try and review as many products as I can get my hands on. I mean, that's the idea. Joey wanted to know, when you remove the strings, wedge a small suction cup underneath it. Should stay in place with care. I get what you're saying, Joey. So basically, when you actually, so if you have a actual a tremolo, and you remove the strings and the tremolo goes back that way. What I normally like to do, Joey, and this is a trick that I learned, is that I'll take some pennies. I'll figure out how many pennies or dimes or nickels or whatever it is it will take to keep the trem bar perfectly horizontal. I'll put a piece of tape under that, like masking tape around the pennies or nickels or dimes, and I'll just slide that underneath. So I have a perfect height for my bridge. And then when I put the strings back on, then I'll just adjust it by making sure the claw is either in a little bit more or out a little bit more, depending on the difference in the strings. If I have the same strings going on, same gauge strings going on as I took off, then it should be perfectly level. And when I tighten everything up to tune, the little pennies and nickels should just fall off, because it'll be perfectly straight. So that's another little tip you can use. All right, guys, that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. So remember, next week will be Friday evening, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all right? That's all I'm going to say. 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Mark it on your calendar. If I have an opportunity, I'll send a little reminder. All right. Thank you once again for tuning in to Addicted to Gear. If you're new and you like the stuff that we're discussing here, we're going to be doing it regularly. So please subscribe, hit the little bell icon, and stay tuned for all the other videos that I'm going to be coming out with shortly. And if you haven't already watched my video reviews, go on and take a look. There's bound to be something in there that you like. That's it, guys. Stay safe, keep rocking, and see you soon.